What's up everyone, my name is Kiahonfire and welcome back to Conan Exiles. Today I'm going to show you the best weapons that I found in the Exiled lands currently to this date. These weapons have been tested against two different creature types, undead type and alive type. So type that can be affected by bleeding and poison, and then the type that cannot be affected by those kind of things, but perhaps other effects work better on them. And to do all these tests, I brought myself a Leon. I thought he was a really easy person to get in the Exiled lands, since you can get him from Leon's watch every single time. I thought he'd be a really good one to test with, because he's easily available for you to pick up. Then I equipped him with an Executioner's Hood. I did this because it gives +1 bonus strength over the normal helmet of the Flawless Pictus Warchief. So this gives a +2, but this will give a +3. And then it's the same with the War Dancer chest. So that's why I have these two pieces on. And then this guy's chewing on the exotic feast to keep his health up. He's pretty much indestructible like this when he has these feasts here. And then the weapon of choice. You can see I've had a bunch in here. I've been testing a very wide selection of weapons. So if you do suggest one, there is a good chance I've already tried it, and I'll be leaving an honourable mentions in the either comments or descriptions down below. This guy is also up to level 20. You got a little eyeball on his stats there to give you a small idea of what you're looking at here. So we have the Sword of Crom coming in at number 1. People seem to think this is the best sword in Conan Exiles currently. However, there are better options out there on the table. However, it's still a bloody good sword, and it will do you a lot of good service. This weapon gives 97 health damage, 22 armor pen, and it's a big sword. It is very hard to find, but you might just come across it in the unnamed city. We tried it against the Brute and the Bat that are both from the unnamed city as well, that have similar health pools. I believe the Bat only has a little bit above the Brute, just to give you an idea. But when it came to the Brute, it came up to 1 minute 20 seconds. When it came to the Bat on the Sword of the Crom, it came to 1 minute 23 seconds. Coming in at number 2 is Scythe of Fag. This is found in the Wine Cellar dungeon, and it is a very strong swinging weapon that you can use. We can see here it will give you 78 health damage. It doesn't do any armor pen, it does bleed, and it does bonus strength. Now this thing is really nice against both squishy targets and bony targets, like undead targets, because it doesn't seem to stagger very much. That, and I found the normal attack he does will apply bleed every time, so it's really nice against the squishy ones. And if not, it does a hell of a lot of damage anyway, so it's going to do a good service to either or. And especially when he gets swinging, it does a ton of damage in one go, so it can be quite quick to kill your opponents with. That's why it's on my list. For the Brute, it took 1 minute 33 seconds to take it down with this thing, and for the Bat, it took 1 minute 52 seconds to take the thing down. In my numbers 3 spot, we have the Brittle Bastard. This is a mace. Mace are very good at the moment. Since the horse update, they had a massive overhaul in how they work. So they are a lot stronger now, and this is one of the ones that is hella strong. The great thing about this, if you get one, you might see it and you'd be disappointed, because the durability is absolutely crap on it, and it says it seems to break constantly, which would make sense. But if you put it in a thrall's hand, of course the durability is not going to go down. And you can see there is a lot of health damage there and quite a lot of armor pen that it will do. Now this thing actually took down our Brute at 1 minute 14 seconds. It did a really good job on that, and for the Bat it took 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is amazing for timing. So this thing absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's a really good weapon if you can get your hands on it. It's not so good for people, but absolutely great for thralls. In number 4, this might surprise you, but it is the Black Ice Broadsword, a craftable sword that did a lot of good work when I tested it against both the Brute and the Bat. You'd be surprised on how strong it is. It has 73 health damage and 9 armor penetration. It doesn't do any specials, and you can see the durability is pretty low, so that's why it's good on a thrall. But this thing really hits hard, and it really does its job. I found it didn't seem to stagger much either when we were attacking both the Bat and Brute, so He kept swinging and he hit most of his hits, wasn't staggered very much, so I found it a really good sword. And on our list, the time it took to actually get rid of both Brute and Bat. For the Brute it took 1 minute 39 seconds, and for the Bat it took 1 minute 38 seconds. Coming in at number 5 is actually something that might surprise you as well. It is a Star Metal Mace. Now, as I was saying earlier, the maces have come back into fashion quite a lot over the past time, and these things are absolutely destroying. This is a normal Star Metal Mace. It's not an upgraded one, it just does the normal damage, etc. You can see it does 52 health damage and 22 armor penetration and nothing really else. Has a nice amount of durability, so perhaps you'd like to take it up yourself as well. But this is a very good mace, I do recommend it. You can actually beat both of the Sword of Crom times, so this thing destroyed the Bat and the Brute faster than the Sword of Crom, which is funny because you can craft this thing. For our Brute, it didn't have no problem with range at all for that thing. I was a little bit worried it would, but no, it proved me right and wrong. It took 1 minute 14 seconds to destroy the Brute with this mace, and then for the Bat it took 1 minute 19 seconds to kill it. Coming in at number 6 is the good old Axe of the Lion. Now this thing has been strong pretty much as soon as it came out, and it has stayed up to its name throughout. But you can see the Axe of the Lion gives 60 health damage, no armor pen, but it does have a bonus strength there, and the durability is pretty good. It does really good when you're against the squishier targets because it can also apply bleed when you're using it, which makes it extremely useful against the squishy targets, aka the Bat boss we were attacking. However, I did find when I was attacking the Brute, some of the hits wouldn't hit, so perhaps it would be better on a longer target that doesn't have so much space between. For the Brute, it took 1 minute 55 seconds to kill it with the Axe of the Lion, and for the Bat, it took 1 minute 33 seconds. For my number 7 spot, it is the Blade of the Adventurer. Now this is a very, very good sword that you can use to attack with. It kills pretty quick, and it does all the things that a normal sword would, but better because it has hella damage. Now they do take their time with the stagger sometimes, but the amount of damage it outputs is very good, so that's why it's on my list. You can see it gives 82 health damage and 15 armor penetration. It's a good thing, it does cripple, and the durability is pretty decent as well. So it makes for a very hardy, good weapon to choose and put on your thrall. If you do ever come across it, it will do you a pretty good duty there. So for the Brute, it took 1 minute 36 seconds to kill it, and for the Bat, it took 1 minute 46 seconds to kill it. So, all in all, it was pretty good at both targets, and it did its job just fine, as you can see. At number 8, we have Yogg's Touch. To some of your surprise, this is actually a really, really good war axe. You would think not, though, because its effect is corruption, which doesn't really do much unless you're against a player. However, it really does do a good service. But you can see with the Yogg's Touch, it does a lot of damage. It is has 60 health damage, 40 armor penetration, which is a lot. You can see it does shield smash, and it is corrupted. So you'd think that things would do better than it, however, it does really, really well as a war axe. So I was really impressed with this one, and that's why it's included on my list. For the Brute, it took 1 minute 40 seconds to take it down with the Yogg's Touch, and for the Bat, it took 1 minute 22 seconds to take it down. So that's very, very good timings for those two. At number 9 is the Festering one. This is a war axe that does poison damage as well as bleed damage, making it very good against squishy targets. You can see it does 60 health damage, 0 armor pen, however it is poisoned, so every time you swing along with it with a heavy attack it's going to do bleed, and then it's also going to poison at the same time. For the Brute, it took 2 minutes 8 seconds to kill it, and for the Bat, it took 1 minute 30 seconds to kill it. As you can see, there is a big difference there, but it makes a lot of sense because then you have the poison and the bleed working at the same time. You get 20 stacks of bleed and 10 stacks of poison. At my number 10 slot, the final slot for all of our weapons is Adja's Bane. This is a very, very good mace that if you ever find it, you are extremely lucky. You can see here it does bonus strength damage, 57 health damage and 28 armor penetration, but that bonus strength really shines, as well as it has really good durability there. As you can see, it is a very good mace that does a heck of a lot of distance for you, and they hit and don't seem to get staggered much either while they're killing the target. This is actually one of my favourites on the list because it just does such a good job. For the brute, it took 1 minute 3 seconds to kill the thing, and for the bat it took 1 minute 11 seconds, so you can see these timings are very short, and it did really well. Out of all of them, actually, it probably had the best times combined out of all of the weapons on the list, so this is really a star weapon that you can get. If you get it, then GG, big time. If you're wondering why I didn't include any hammers in this list, it's because when I went around and tested them, they took some of the longest times, and this was because they spent most of the time using their kick attack, which wasted a lot of time when they were doing it, so I didn't find them to be very good in a thrall's hands, and they would get staggered a lot while they were holding the hammer. So, for example, when I tried the Croms hammer, that gives you the additional strength. For the brute, it took 2 minute 30 to do it, and for the bat, it took 2 minute 28. And then for the rest of the hammers I tried, it was even longer. So if you did want to use a hammer, there's my recommendation, a Croms hammer. However, I really wouldn't go about using a hammer in general for a thrall. But anyway, that's just a few of my recommendations. I hope you have a good time finding these or making them, because there are some makeable ones on the list that are pretty darn good. But anyway, thank you for watching, I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!